Welcome kings and queens to Ace Designs 107. Today what I have for you guys is a tutorial in Cinema 40, and then the next part will be in After Effects. And at the beginning of the video you saw a tutorial preview. And that preview is what we'll be making today. And this is the actual part that we're going to be making in this video. And then in the other video, I'll be showing you how to add in the glitch effects, the sound effects, and everything like that. So basically, we're just making this animation. And it's really cool because it's got like this liquidy feel to it. And I'm looking quite excited for this tutorial. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up Cinema 40. We're going to go to MoGraph, MoText. And we're going to name this text, or we're going to pick a letter T. I'm going to go and find a font that I like. I don't know. This font looks interesting. Probably not. That's not the best font. Maybe this font. Maybe not. Quirk. Yeah, we're going to go with Quirk font. And I'm going to change the depth up to like 60. Something like that. Something interesting. 60, I think. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. And basically, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make this object editable. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make this editable by pressing C on our keyboard with that layer selected. We're going to right click and do select children, press C again, right click and do select children, press right click and do connect objects and delete. And then what we have is this, I don't know how to explain it, but we have this. And now we're going to go with the boring stuff of the tutorial. And this tutorial isn't really exciting, I would say, but it's really cool because you're going to learn a lot of things. So yeah, we're going to name this layer as an S by double clicking on the name, or a T, doesn't really matter, whatever letter yours is. And now we're going to grab a MoGraph cloner. Next thing with this cloner, we're going to right click on it or just double click on the name if it's going to let me, and rename this to T-original. Press enter. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab a sphere object, and we're going to turn down the segments on the sphere to 4. Now you're like, well, this doesn't look like a 4 on my screen. Yeah, that's true. You've only got 4 segments, making this low res poly. But basically, when you render this, it's going to turn out as a sphere. It's just, when you're working with this particular file, we'll be using thousands and thousands of spheres, and if you're going to be using the segments up to 24 or anything higher, it's going to take a long time to preview, render, or anything like that. So you want to keep it low for now, and then you can bump it up later. But really, it's fine just to keep it at 4, and we'll work with it. After you change the segments on the sphere, we're going to change this down to the radius 4. And we're going to drag this under our cloner. And now we're going to go to the object under the cloner and then change the mode to object. Then for the object of this cloner, we're going to drag the T down to this. And basically what you see now is it's, replicated balls all over the place. But we have to make some changes to this. Now, if we go down to our distribution and then change this to surface, and then crank up this count, and we're also going to turn off the T by holding Alt and click these 2 buttons until they turn red. Go back to our original, and we could crank this up even more till something's getting up like our actual object. Now what we have is the balls cloning themselves to that shape or pattern, and once we render it, we've got these balls like that. So now you have to find the appropriate amount of balls. Now, you don't want to leave some holes in there. You don't want to have it like full up, maxed out like that. I want to drag this down to like 935. See how that works, and we're going to see like that. Now, you might not be able to see the render shadows in your render like I'm not seeing mine. So I'm going to go down to the rendering settings, I'm going to right click down here, and I'm going to add in ambient occlusion. And what this is going to do now is when I preview render this, not like that, when I preview render this, it's going to give me those shadows, and it's going to give me like a more depth preview render. Now all we have to do is we're going to add some of the liquid movement that you saw in the intro. So we're going to grab a new sphere, and we're just going to move it, you know, off to the side a bit. I'm going to actually position my camera the way that I like it. Something like that. That will work. I don't know. I guess like that. And now we're going to duplicate this cloner by pressing Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And we're just going to drag this down here. And we're also going to drag down... I'm going to leave our sphere there for now. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to rename this to T object. And the reason why I'm going to change this is because we're going to change the actual object that it's replicating to. So instead of this, now we're going to go down to here, and I'm going to drag this sphere under our object instead of the T. And then what that's going to do is it's going to replicate all of those balls towards that ball, and it's going to give us this. Now, you might be thinking, oh, well, how does this actually help us make this effect? Well, luckily for us, we have this thing called adherence effector. So if we turn off the actual scene of this object by holding Alt and clicking here until those turn off, and then we're going to go to MoGraph, and we're going to go to the effector, and then go to inheritance. Now, that's really good for us because of it can like morph things into other objects. So to actually make the morphing begin, we're going to go down to our T original. We're going to go down to the effectors panel, and we're going to drag the inheritance under the effector, and then go down to the inheritance by itself, and then go to the effector panel and drop in as the object the T object cloner. And then we're going to click in morph motion object, and then if we preview this, it's going to morph itself into that object, but we need to keyframe it and also add some other things. So basically what we can do with this is we can keyframe it. So if we change down our strength with this inheritance, what this going to do is, as you can see, it brings itself into that object. So if we smartly keyframe this, we can get that object appearing. So we kind of don't need to see this object anymore, so the inheritance does that for us. So we're just going to hold Alt and double click those until it does disappear. Actually, yeah, we're going to double click those, and then now when we turn down the strength on the inheritance, it doesn't appear anymore. And if we render this out like now, we've got these balls clustering up like that, and it's going to like cluster up like this, and it's still like that, and you know what I'm talking about. So let's set up the animation. So we're going to change this the seconds to 10 seconds, and we're just going to drag the slider out. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to keyframe the strength. So we're going to start at 16 frames, I reckon. So we're going to move our slider until it hits 16, and we're going to set our strength. So now we're just going to hold Alt or Control and press the strength here, and then we're going to go down to 4.5 seconds or 136 frames and change our strength down to 0 and hold Command again and press that button. And now what is happening is it's basically keyframed like we do in After Effects, and it's making that really smooth animation. Now, for some people, this is already a decent animation and you can add a texture and you can straight away go. But for us, it's a little bit too static, and we can take this a bit further. So to do this, we're going to grab our T original cloner, make sure that's selected, then go to the effector, and then go to formula. And now with this formula, it adds a standard formula to it, and it's rippling the particles when they see, so it's coming in like that. Now you can turn down the strength, you know, let this be, and it's still rippling, but we can change this formula to our liking and also edit some of the settings at the same time. So I reckon that strength 21 or something around there is pretty good, just testing around a bit off camera. And, you know, it's not too strong, not too weak, and it adds this really nice little subtle effect. And it's rippling. But we're going to keyframe this a little bit. So we're going to go down to like 160 frames. And we're going to press the command key, control command key, keyframe that, and then we're going to go ahead like 243 or 245. And we're just going to turn this all the way down and then hold control on the strength and click that button. So now, once we play through this, it's rippling, it comes in as the morph to the object that we morph into, and then from 60 down to 240, it's a static object. And that's really cool. Now, one of the things that we need to do is actually get rid of the beginning particles, because we don't want to see that. You can leave it there, but, you know, I don't want to see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to here, and we're going to grab our MoGraph plane. And we're going to make this as a setting, so this will control when we see the particles or not. And we're going to go down to the parameter, and we're going to go down to the scale, and we're going to turn off that to the position, go to uniform scale, and then go to -1. And we're going to move this into position. Like that. Okay, I kind of forgot when I was applying the plane effector, we kind of did something wrong, or I did something wrong. So you have to select the T original layer, then go to MoGraph, and then grab our plane. Okay, now it's going to be affecting that, and we're going to go down to the parameter now, and go to the scale, turn on uniform scale, and then go to -1. I'm really sorry guys, it didn't show. Now it's not showing anything, and yeah. So now everything's disappeared. We want to see something, so we're going to go down to the fall off, go down to the shape, and then we're going to change it. And we're going to change it down to linear. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to be affecting everything on the back side of this blue arrow. So now if we rotate this box on the x-axis to the blue facing the center point of the document or the workspace, and we're going to drag this along, now it's displaying those. Now if we move back carefully like this, and now it's displaying this. Now if you leave it like here and then go down to the first frame, keyframe it, and then the particles move in slowly and appear on the document. Now we're going to just save this by pressing Ctrl S. It's really important to save it constantly. I'm just going to go here and I'm going to name tutorial. Let's open up Windows 8 shit. Tutorial crap on our tutorial file recording. Save. Now we just have to position the box correctly in the right space. So I'm just going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to drag this until we can see the beginning particles, something like here. Move this a little bit up like that, and then if we play through this, sweet. Okay, we've got something nice going on here. And we don't really need to see our plane effector right now, so we're just going to hold Alt and double click our traffic signals, and it's still affecting our scene. So if we go back to the first frame, it's still affecting it. I just don't really need to see it now. I don't really need to edit it at all. Now, we can still go a little bit further with this tutorial. See, we add in all these little fine details. So another thing that we can do is we're already getting this like kind of liquidy feel, I guess you could say. I don't know. Don't blame me on this, boys. Just don't blame me. So if I just go back a couple frames to like this liquidy feel, we're getting it, but it doesn't look like liquid. Let's be honest here. So we're gonna grab our T original, and we're gonna go down to the MoGraph, and actually we're gonna go. Where are you? Down here to our Metaball, and make sure that our T original is selected, and it didn't pop up as it for some reason. And we're gonna put the T original as the child of the Metaball. Now, your first thoughts is, wow, you've ruined my whole shape. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to the Metaball, go to the object, change the hue value to like 903%. And like, wow, you still ruined it. So we're gonna change the settings down to 1 on the render subdivision and 2.5.5 on the editor subdivision. And you can use this you know, goo stuff as, you know, a render on its own, but we're gonna actually edit this so it's making this animation. And as you guys can see, it's a lot more glitchy now. That's because we've added a lot more polygons to deal with for Cinema 4D. Now we're going to just see what actual object we're getting from this. So I'm going to go into here, and we're getting this nice liquidy T, but you know there's way too much holes. So if we go back to our T original and we change up the count of this to like, I don't know, 1,200, something like that, and then we go down to our T object and we go to 1,200 and something, 121, no wait, 1,200, we need the exact same count, 1,210. And you know, that's how you can fix up the holes, and we can render this again. See how it's looking. Sweet. And we're actually going to add one more effect to this. So we're going to go down to our T original, and then go to MoGraph effector formula. And we're going to right click on this formula and name this ripple. Press OK. And we're going to add actually a formula on this. So we're going to go to the fall off. Hang on. And I'm actually gonna drop a formula that I found online with a little bit of digging. And yeah, so you can just copy this from the description below. I'll leave it in. I'm just gonna Control C, Control V it on. As you can see that the windows are not being played. And this is going to add that slight little ripple on that, I don't know. It's gonna add this ripple on the animation. But I can't really play it here because of my computer's fucking up right now. And that's not my fault, guys. It's just my computer won't be able to do it. And, you know, this is going to start eating up my system like here. And, you know, even with my high-end computer, it's still eating it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the Metaball. And I'm going to go down to the editor subdivision. And I'm going to change this down to like 5. It's going to make it an easier render for us. And something is happening here which isn't normal. And I actually have to figure out why. The fuck is going on? If we go down to our T original, go to the effectors and make sure that ripple's on. Well, the ripple I think is too strong, that's why. I'll turn this back on to like, I don't know. Make sure that you turn off the scale of the ripple. I'm just trying to see what's actually going on here, boys. Because this shouldn't be happening, and it is. Alright, I think that's a bit better. If you would have been able to fix those problems. And now I'm just seeing if this is still rippling. Yes, it is, and the render is happening. Now, obviously, this is chunky, but, you know, that's the only way that you can kind of preview this, because it is very hard to preview it, especially because it takes such a high demanding program, so you do want to change those editing subdivisions. And even if we pause this, and then go ahead and render this, it's going to render like that. And we're going to edit some of the max and mins on the ripples. So we're going to go down to the parameter or deformer, the effector, I think, and we're going to click this little arrow down here, and we're going to go to the minimum, and we're going to edit this to like 60. And what this is going to do is it's going to ripple between 60% and 100%, and you know, it's just going to add that little edge of detail that we do want. You can edit these values to your heart's content, by the way. Now let's go throw a header texture on this. So we're going to right click or do create new material, and we're going to right click on this and then go to edit, and we're going to name this, you know, super texture. I don't know, you can name it liquid texture, actually it's a bit more appropriate. And I'm going to change the color of this, you know, down to, I don't know, a blue, something like that. And you can edit these colors however you really want. And then you are going to go down to the diffusion, and we're going to click that little here, and then we're going to go down to the texture by clicking on this little arrow down here, and we're going to add on a noise. And with the noise, we're going to click down here on the settings. We're going to click on this little arrow, and we're going to add on a turbulent noise, wavy turbulence. And we're not going to really play around with these settings, and you know, this is adding a bit of detail that I'm not really liking. So I'm going to go with the octaves, and I'm going to make this 10.8, and I'm going to make the global scale, pump it right up to 1600. And you know, that's going to add a lot less detail to the actual image. Now with this, I'm going to apply this texture to the Metaball, so we've seen what we're getting, and I'm just going to render that out. I'm going to go down to the Metaball and change this down to 2.5 again. Just add that little detail that we do want back. You can even change this down to like 1.5, even add that more detail, which is what we're looking for right now, because we're coming to the post-editing stage. And then what we have here basically is a really simple texture, but we can add a lot of different settings to this to change it up quite a lot. So we can go down to the diffusion and then click on the noise, and we're going to change the high click down to like 84%. We're going to go to the luminescence, click down here, and we're going to change the settings of this to that color. But with this color, we're going to change the luminescence brightness down to 31%. And under the color, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the exact same. So instead of copying the values, you can drag the color thumbnail down to here under the luminescence, and it will automatically transfer that on. Now with the transparency, we want to create that kind of, you know, transparency look with all liquids have. So we're going to you can bring this right down to like it's nearly transparent. I'm going to do the brightness down to like 75%. With the refraction, I'm probably going to turn this up to like 0.16, because of basically this refracts whatever it sees, so you can pump this right up, you know. But it is pretty you know, what's the word, sensitive, so you want to edit those carefully. And with the finesse reflection, I'm going to change this down to 76%. And with the color picker, or the absorbed color, I'm going to make it like a greenish light, like that. And it's going to add this like nice little thing like that. Now with the reflection, I'm going to change the brightness down to, you know, something around 20 to 21%. And on the texture, I'm going to add a gradient. Or is it finesse? Yeah, a finesse. And then with this gradient, I'm going to edit the settings of it. So I'm going to go down to the color, and I'm going to change it to like a gray. And you know, this is going to be a lot more soft on it. I'm going to change this gray color actually down to like a lighter gray, something like this. And you know, it's just something a bit more soft on the actual effect. I'm going to change the mix mode to multiply. And now if we render this out a little bit, getting something a lot more soft. Now I'm going to stop that render and go to edit. And we're going to go down to the bump, and we're going to edit some of the bump settings. So with this, we're going to go down to the texture, and we're going to go to layer, and we're going to click on the bump color and change this down to an shader, which is going to be a noise, and the noise type, which we're going to click down here, it's going to be Nucky. And this is going to create that bumpy look that you usually see on all images. And on the octaves, we're going to change this up to 7. The global scale is going to be probably 1000. Or 1001. And we can render this out again. And what that's going to do is it's going to spread out it a lot. So we've upsized it a lot instead of having a lot of those bumps. And with the bump, we're going to add in another fucking noise. Whoa, 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 whoa. What the fuck did we do? I need to go back to Naki. I need to change this back to 7 and this to 1000. And then go back to our bump. And we're going to add in another layer. Wait. How the... Oh, we're going to go to the layer and then go to the shader and then add in another noise. And with this noise, we're going to edit some of its settings. And the noise that we were going to pick is displaced turbulence. So, I think it's this one here. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to remember what I actually did. Because I took screenshots of all these settings. And with the settings under the displacement turbulence, we're going to change the octaves up to 3. And the global scale 300 to 308. And we're going to go back to our bump here. And we can change the actual blending mode of it to overlay. And this is going to overlay it onto the picture. And then if we render this quickly, we can see that it's coming up with this really cool, gooey, you know, thing. Like, if we make it a green color instead of blue, we can have Hulk blood. If you make it pink blood, like, you can have, I don't know, Wonder Woman's blood. I don't know what you want, but just do whatever you need to do. Now, we're going to go down to the specular. And change the fall off right up to, like, 0. Actually, keep the fall off to 0. And change the height up to 100%. And it's going to add that light spot on the actual picture. And you can continue to play around with the height. You can bring it right up to like 200 something. And it's going to make the majority of the picture quite... Just let me click off this thing for a second. Why is it fucking... Okay, sweet. I just couldn't see. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna add in that color, you know, shades and everything like that. I'm gonna save this quickly. I'm gonna go back to my material options and edit some of the settings here. So I'm gonna go down to the width. And I'm gonna make this 18. It's gonna make the color places a lot more thin, but I don't know, I just want to be a little bit bold here. Make this down to 33. And this is actually a really nice way of how to make this really cool texture. But we still haven't added in our light. So we're going to add in that, and that's going to even make things even more cooler. And, you know, this is a 3D software, so you can add in a camera and key the camera however you want to. And edit that to your heart's content. So I'm just gonna let this render out for now and see that. So it's looking really cool, but I'm actually thinking to actually change the width actually down to like 15 or something. Keep it small for now. And I'm going to add in our light, because our light's going to add some of that cool things features. So we're going to go to MoGraph. How do I add in light? Oh yes, down here into our light. And with our light, I'm going to drag this up. Sorry, my Cinema 40's lagging here, guys. You have to keep with me. You can't really do anything about this program. It's just such a high demanding program, especially with all the polygons. And I can actually go back to my Metaball and change this to like 5. Something that I can deal with while I'm doing this tutorial, so I don't have any lag. And I'm going to change the type of this light to an area light. And I'm going to control this light by a null object. So I'm going to select the light and then grab in a plane. Actually, just right click. How do I make a null? So to make a null, you select the light and then go down to here and make a null. And then what this is going to do is this null is going to be actually controlling this light. So I'm going to drag this light a little bit back like this. And I'm going to grab my null and I'm going to drag it to the center of this piece. Somewhere like here. And to make this light focus on the null, I'm going to right click on the light, go to Cinema 40 tags, and then go to target. And with the target object, I'm going to drag the null down here, and it's going to target that area where the null is. And then wherever I move this null, it's going to move this light. So if I twist this a little bit around. I think I've got something that I like. It's looking pretty cool like this. I'm just going to save that. I'm going to change the color or shade this light is producing to like a yellow. The reason for that is it's going to add this little bit of realisticness to like that. And under the details of the light panel, I'm going to go down to the fall off and change this down to inverse square physically accurate. And this is going to blow the scene. So to change some of the settings of this, I'm going to go to the radius and, you know, change the size of this actually to like that. And then I'm also going to move this back to like this. I'm actually going to change the radius a little bit higher and then move the object like this. And you can change the radius by grabbing that little orange yellow dot and pulling it back. And now I'm going to do a preview render and see how this is actually rendering out. It's rendering out not too bad, but it's a bit dull, so I'm going to drag this right up. And I'm also going to go down to my Metaball and change the editor subdivision to like 1.5. So we get a much more accurate render, because we're coming to the final stage, so we have to set up everything perfectly so we can move on to actually rendering it as a final. It's looking pretty nice. Yeah, I like it like that. We're going to edit some of the area settings under the shadow. So we're going to go down to the light object, go down to the shadow, and then go to area. And with that, we're going to edit some of the accuracy. So the accuracy is going to be 1%. And the maximum samples is going to be 350. And the minimum samples is going to be 3. we're going to press Control S on that, and we're just going to do this final render, see how this has popped out. And we're actually finished with this tutorial, but I'm going to show you how to do the final render, what you have to do, and how you can actually change the color if you want to go back and change it. So I actually already know how this looks like, so I'm going to right click on my object, and if you do want to change the color at any time, change the color like this. So we can change it to, you know, a yellow or a greenish, I don't know, pinkish, and then drag this pink under the color, so diffusion, so luminance I mean, bam, and then we've got a pink color, and we've got, you know, this pink object. You can also change this to yellow, whatever you want, guys. It's all under yourself, bam, like that. And with the settings of this, I'm going to go down to this, you know, production thing with the cogwheel behind it. I'm going to right click and then go to global illumination. This creates an awesome render, guys, like seriously, but it does put up your render time for a lot more, but global illumination is just so sexy. And then with the anti-aliasing, you can go to the best settings and then change this to like 1:1 to 4:4. And then with the save output, I'm going to make the format a QuickTime movie. If you don't have QuickTime movie, do what it's called, AVI movie or PNG, but I do recommend renting out in QuickTime movie. To get QuickTime movie, just install QuickTime. I know it's a pain in the ass, but just install it, guys. It's a much more easier way of doing things. So just install QuickTime on your PC and change that, and then we're going to go down to the file destination. I'm going to do test, or, you know, whatever you really want to name it. I usually name it final or render, because with post-production you want to name this render, and then render final you could name it, press save, and then with the depth you want to keep it to 8-bit channel, and then go to the output and then change the width to 1920. Definitely, guys, you have to do this, 1920 by 1080p, and the resolution you can change this up to 300, and the frame rate, it would be amazing if you could do 60 FPS, but the tutorial this took me 48 hours to render in a 10-second thing, so under 30 FPS. 48 hours, guys. Fuck you, car. So what it's called, so if you don't want to take anything more than 48 hours, I wouldn't recommend doing anything higher than 30 FPS, especially with a 10-second intro. And we've got, with the frame range, we're going to do all frames, so from 0 to 10, and we've basically done. So the main thing is change width and height, and then resolution, frame rate, and also from 0 to 10 with under all frames, and the save, and also ambient inclusion, make sure that's included, and global illumination. Now with the Metaball, we're going to change the editor subdivision down to 1. We're going to name this like a perfect render. We always want the best type of render possible, and we're actually going to move this thing onto our screen because we want everything to be positioned correctly before we render it. So I'm going to move my camera around with the tools and make everything is on the center of my screen, because of once you click that render button, there's no turning back. You know, you'll have to re-render the whole thing again. And is this actually going to let me see if it's on my screen or not? Here it is. Just change it to 5 while you're editing the settings, and see that it comes on at the right time. That's around the right area of the screen, and then moves on to the screen in center. You want everything to be on the center, guys, so if it's not on the center, just eyeball it, but it's really important to center it like that. It's not in the center. There it is. Like that, and it comes onto the screen approximately there. Yep. And then it does this thing here, and then go down to the Metaball, change this down to 0.5 again. It's going to make the render much more accurate. And I'm just going to make this a final render and see what this actually looks like by clicking the preview render, and it's going to start preparing it, and it's going to start this clock. And this clock is going to take a long time. If you don't have a high-end PC, guys, do not go under these settings. I have to close my door. These bikes are fucking crazy. So basically, it's going to start rendering like this. So it does take a long fucking time. But if you don't want to do it the best possible way, what you can do is you can go on YouTube and go under the... just type onto YouTube, render settings for Cinema 4D, quick render animation, and it should have come up with plenty of tutorials showing you how to do this. So this has been a 40-minute tutorial. I hope that you guys stayed for the rest of it, because I reckon this effect is really cool. The next part of this tutorial will be in After Effects, and it will show you how to make this thing finished up and everything like that. So thank you guys for watching the tutorial. I really do appreciate it if you took 40 minutes out of your time to stay to the end. If you did, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to, you know, smash it with likes and everything like that. Let's see if we can get to 10 likes in this video. Peace, everyone. I'll see you in the second part of this tutorial. Second part of this tutorial will be uploaded in 48 hours. I'll see you soon. Peace.